Welcome back to another episode of Swamp Stories. For this episode, we cover an insane story that's never been seen before. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. You can also follow the Instagram page as well. So let's get into it. The story begins in the Bronx, which has long been known as the city's worst borough. Territorial rivalries have plagued the area for over 50 years, and this story is no different. But it begins in what's known as Fordham Manor, an area located right across from Fordham University. The small neighborhood was always known as a better and more calm part of the Bronx. However, the corner of 194th and Valentine was the one spot to avoid, especially for college students. Well, this exact intersection was home to a man named Latique Johnson. Latique was born in 1980 and jumped into the street life in 1994. He was known to be charismatic and always the one in the neighborhood to get his way. And through his young adult years, he became a street general, representing 194th, an area he called 9-4. While hustling for 9-4, Latique landed himself a 6-year prison sentence in 2005. For most people, this would be seen as wasted time, but for Latique, this was a perfect opportunity. But you know what else is a perfect opportunity? Playing Raid Shadow Legends. Yep, that's right, the free-to-play game is available on mobile and PC devices. After downloading the amazing game, the first thing you'll notice is the stellar graphics, which many call console level. But once you start the game, you'll be even more thrilled. Personally, my favorite aspect is picking the champion that best suits me. It's all about picking a champion and seeing what they can do for you, or more like what you can do with them. Whether you want speed demons like Gaelic or hard hitters like Athel, it's all up to you. But what's not up to you is time, and that's running short. You don't want to miss the special Valentine's Day event stretching from February 14th to just March 14th. After entering the player ID, you can play the Valentine's themed games where you can win in-game and in-person prizes. Yep, that's right, you can win a $1,000 Amazon gift card. And if you're an old Raid player, you can still share the love too. Use the promo code STValentine23 to get your Valentine's Day gift from us to you. So if you're not already on Raid, you need to click the link in the description or scan the code. With this code, you'll receive $35 worth of special bonuses. Raid Shadow Legends is the way to go, remember that. Okay, back to Latique Johnson. While in Attica prison, Latique applied the same strategies he used on the streets. He gathered people together and pitched them on a new idea. He wanted to start his own organization, something that would spread all around the facility. The organization needed to be feared, and he definitely needed to be at the head. So only a few weeks into his sentence, Latique Johnson started the Bloodhound Brims, also known as BHB. For those who are unfamiliar, the Brims are a set that originated in LA in the 70s and spread to New York in the 90s. At this point, the 5'9 Brims already existed in New York. In fact, Latique Johnson's neighborhood had plenty of members. But Latique wanted his own section, apart from the 5'9 Brims. Well, quickly he had himself a squad within the facility, but now it was time to hit the streets. He knew he was coming home in 2011, but this could not wait for his return home. So instead, he called up his best friend in the Bronx and informed him of what he had started. This would be a man named Michael Adams, also known as Measy. Measy was a feared character in the Bronx and at the time was a reputed 5'9 Brim. Well, over the phone, Latique recruited Measy to initiate the Bloodhound Brims in the Bronx. So in 2006, Measy recruited a few dozen members, mostly in 9-4. And with the fast growth, BHB needed a way to remain organized. So that's when Latique wrote the Book of Rules for the Bloodhound Brims. Of course, the book made him the undeniable leader, also known as the Godfather or La Brim. But he would share this top position with a woman who would be known as the Godmother. She would make the decisions on the streets while Latique was away. And under the Godfather and Godmother, you have the generals. This ranges from 5-star generals at the top all the way down to 1-star generals on the bottom. And with this structure, BHB had a direct line of command. The more you did for the Godfather, the higher you climbed the ladder. Well, over the next 4 years, the Bloodhound Brims claimed more and more territory in the Bronx. Bronx. First, you have the 94Gs, which is of course the original block. Then right up the street you have the 220Gs, another strong Bloodhound section. Then you continue north on Webster until you reach 204th, and this is where you reach the Bloodhound Brim's biggest territory, known as the G-side. But they also expanded to other areas of the Bronx as well, such as the Leicester Towers, also known as Murderville. Then next they also expanded to Yonkers, specifically the Cottage Place Apartments, also known as 300. Well, with all these sections, the Bloodhound Brims had 480 members by 2011, and it was ever growing. But as they expanded, they ran into opposition as well, and it all went down on a particular block, the infamous corner of 241st and White Plains Road. The intersection is located under a train station, which means it's a prime location for somebody trying to make money. Well, because of this, 3 organizations wanted this territory to be theirs: the Black P Stones, the Eastside Gangsters, and of course BHB. For years, the Black P Stones and Eastside were allied and claimed this territory as theirs. So when BHB came into the area, the other 2 sections were not happy. They didn't approve of a BHB member named Box Brim who would hang out on the corner every single day. So unfortunately, they would claim his life in early 2011. After hearing the news, Latique was pissed and he declared a new rivalry: the Bloodhound Brims versus the Eastside Gangsters. However, nothing would go down over the next few months, and the Godfather was not happy. Coincidentally though, Latique was set to be released in late 2011, and that takes us to January 21st, 2012. It's Latique's 32nd birthday, and that means celebration time. So he and his 5-star generals head to Club Heat to celebrate. The club is located in Hunts Point, an industrial area at the bottom of the Bronx. But despite the distance from the hood, many people will travel to go to this club. Coincidentally, both BHB and Eastside members happen to be there on this night, and of course this ruined Latique's birthday. To this day, police are uncertain about what exactly happened, but here's what police know: there was a big scuffle and 3 Eastside members were injured, and 1 BHB member named Beans was injured as well. Thankfully, everyone lived to see another day, but the Godfather had vengeance on his mind. Between the loss of Box Brim and the ruining of his birthday, Latique had a lot of reasons to be mad. And that takes us to January 28th, 2012. It's a Saturday night in the Bronx, and that means all of the hoods are outside. For Eastside, they happen to be hanging out in front of Kennedy's Chicken on White Plains Road. Well, coincidentally, Latique calls up his 5-star general Donnell Murray to be his driver. He tells him to drop him off at 241st and White Plains Road to look for Eastside members. So at 8 p.m. they head that way in Donnell Murray's car. They don't find anyone outside, so they head up the street to Kennedy's Chicken. That's where Latique spots the man that he believes is responsible for Box Brim. So he hops out of the car and walks into the restaurant. Bam! He runs back to Murray's car and they speed away. Thankfully, the man was okay, but the case would continue to go unsolved. BHB were operating below NYPD's radar, but that would change due to their own decisions. Let me explain. As many of us remember, 2012 and 2013 were transformative years in America. This is the time where social media got extremely popular throughout the country. Today, everyone makes their social media look good, but back then, people posted absolutely whatever. And for BHB, this meant posting everything they were doing in the streets. Well, after the Eastside rivalry, BHB kept picking up new rivals across the Bronx. This would include the infamous Latin Kings. August 4th, 2013, a BHB member named Aaron Smith, also known as Onyx Hound, spots a rival on 198th and Creston. He believes the man is a Latin King. Just 45 minutes after he did this, the BHB members would take to social media and post about what he had done. October 30th, 2013, 2 unidentified Bloodhound Brims head to the Latin King's territory in West Bronx. They drive around until they spot a man who they believe is a king. So one of the BHBs hops out and runs up to the man. Thankfully, the man would make it, but BHB members didn't think so. So they would instantly make a Facebook post saying another man down. Still though, NYPD would not detect this, and 2014 would end up being BHB's worst year to date. This is because of a new rivalry against the infamous Trinitarios of the Bronx, and it all started on June 19th, 2014. It's a casual Thursday night and a BHB member walks down to his local bodega. This would be a reputed member named Garrett Wilson, also known as Slim. Garrett is a big old dude, 6'3", 205 pounds, so he's nobody to mess with. Well, he makes his way to 194th and Decatur and walks in the store. There, he notices a Trinitario named Orlando Gonzalez. Garrett is furious to see a rival at what he thinks is his store, so he makes a wild decision. Bam! This would kick off an insane rivalry between the Trinitarios and BHB, one that would eventually take them down. BHB had never been involved with such a big and powerful organization, but despite being outnumbered, members like Garrett Wilson made up for what they lacked. October 9th, 2015. It's a Friday night and Garrett Wilson heads to a club on Boston Road. The reason he's there is because his girlfriend's a dancer and he needs to pick her up. So after the club closes, Garrett walks to the parking lot to pick up his girlfriend. But there he's met with a surprise. His girlfriend gets into a scuffle with a coworker. So a good citizen named Jose Feliciano jumps in to break it up. For whatever reason, Garrett did not appreciate Jose doing this, so his emotions got the best of him. Bam! This incident caused NYPD to look into BHB and everything on their social media. There they found dozens and dozens of self-incriminating posts. August 4th, 2016. 40 BHB members are arrested in the Bronx, including the Godfather. And here is where things get crazy, because nearly everyone started telling. First was Donnell Murray, who was the driver at Kennedy Chicken. He would tell on Latique Johnson by telling NYPD about the incident. But Donnell wouldn't be the only one. Michael Measy Adams would be next, the original BHB member in Bronx. The man who Latique Johnson considered his best friend and second in command. Yes, this guy would testify against Latique for multiple incidents in the Bronx. But it gets even crazier. Latique's third in command, Thomas Morton, would testify against Donnell Murray. So I guess what goes around comes around too. By 2019, nearly every BHB member testified against one another. That would be except for Latique Johnson, who ended up getting 30 years. Well, the major takedown slowed down the Bloodhound Brims for quite a few years. But just like anything, the next generation would come out of these same sections. In 2018, a new star would emerge from the Bloodhound Brims. This would be a young man named Taboo Harris, also known as Spaz Drilly. Spaz grew up on Bainbridge Ave, right in the heart of the G-side. Because of his location, he grew up being mentored by and looking up to BHB members. And because of this, his childhood did not go without troubles. In fact, he was sent to go live with a suburban family during his high school years. The program was called the Fresh Air Fund, and the idea was to expose troubled inner-city kids to a different way of life. For many, the program may work, but for Spaz, he wanted to be exactly where he was from. And that's partly due to the love and respect the entire G-side had for him. Just like the original Latique Johnson, Spaz was charismatic and always led his friends. At the age of 17, Spaz began rapping and making a name for himself in the local drill scene. And with him would always be his best friend Damian Gilbert, also known as Dumb Out. Together, the two were the most popular in the G-side community. And that takes us to May 29th, 2018. It's Memorial Day weekend and the G-side Crips are hosting a barbecue in their section. Their territory is right above the Brims, but they always get along in unison. So on this day, Dumb Out, the Drillies, and the G-side Crips are all playing a dice game. Somehow an argument starts between both sides and sadly Dumb Out would fall victim. The entire New York City would talk about this incident, especially the rival rappers. One of those would be the world-famous rapper Lil TJ, who would post this. The G-side was instantly torn apart. The two sides had grown up together their entire lives, but the Brims could not accept what their former friends had done. So they declared a rivalry, the G-side Crips versus the G-side Drillies. And from here, things would get nuts. July 20th, 2020. It's another hot summer day in the Bronx, and that means that the Drillies are outside. They happen to be on Decatur Avenue, right in the heart of the G-side, and that's when they notice an unfamiliar person walking down the street. For some reason, Spaz Drilly believes the man is a rival from the other side, so he allegedly sprints down the street. Over the next couple of years, incidents would go back and forth between both sides. But it took for one particular incident to catch NYPD's attention. On March 12, 2021, Delilah Vasquez lost her life while hanging out with her friends. Her friends were G-Side Drilly members, and that's all everyone knows. Although it was an internal affair, the sad incident would devastate members like Spaz Drilly. The incident actually caught national news, and NYPD began looking into the Drillies. In the meantime, a rival drill rapper named Shaw Ek would diss her along with Dumb Out in a song. Shaw Ek is a member of the OGs in the Bronx, and this furthered the rivalry between the OGs and the Drillies. For some reason, everyone likes going against the Drillies, even NYPD. So let me explain the scenario. The Drillies were essentially the continuation of the Bloodhound Brims, and while they had the G side, they also had a couple of other BHB sections as well. Latique Johnson's 9-4 Gs became the 9-4 Drillies, and they're by far the most popular section in the drill scene. The famous rappers E-Woo and Lee Drilly rep this section hard. Then right up the street, the 220 Gs are represented by the up-and-coming rapper Say Drilly. All of these sections are extremely feared and all have their own rivalries. For example, the 220 Gs rival the Sev side, and 9-4 rivals Sugar Hill and Harlem. Altogether, the Drillies are one and always have each other's back. But because of this, NYPD could easily take them down in one single sweep. And once the Drillies gained the reputation of having no limits, NYPD decided to put it to an end. April 7th, 2022, Operation Drilly. As we all know, when NYPD wants you, they're gonna come get you and all of your friends. 20 G-Side and Drilly members are arrested, including Lee Drilly and also Spaz Drilly. Spaz Drilly is now facing double life. What a waste for such a talented rapper. And just like that, another generation of BHB is taken down. And because of numerous successful takedowns, the streets of the Bronx are now relatively safe. But you still never know if another generation will appear. And that's gonna do it for this episode of Swamp Stories. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe. Peace!